Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say, being bonitos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. You good old boys in Canada, we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful February the 18th, 2020, Guando Deportes. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's been raining down here for 2 days, and I can go out in my yard and fish because now I have a man-made lake.
Yeah, you good old boys use Mother Nature's lakes to get all the big fish that you can find. I want to tell you today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is sponsored and powered by Google. And Alexa, just say Google, or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. So, Big C, I'm saying, you said that, did you say you pardoned fish or that you carved a hole down the side of the fish? Which one did you say, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we got so much water running around here from the rain we've had for 2 days. I mean, it seems to be lakes forming everywhere. So I'm assuming that I'll go out in the morning and find some fish in my driveway.
Yeah, I'm sure you find some fish in your driveway. And last week you found roses in your driveway. Now you're finding fish in your driveway. Really appreciate that. I want to make sure we pay homage to our military veterans, our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They have people who are experienced in helping veterans and their loved ones. They can call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you are online, just go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, it's so important, Charlton, because we have to think about our military veterans every day in America, not just on Veterans Day. And so many of these veterans are going through troubling times here in America, economically, socially, mentally. And we need to find a way to stem the tide that so many of them have fallen upon. Is called suicide. This horrific disease has taken the life of so many great Americans, Charlton, not just our military personnel, but our everyday citizens in America, and especially our youth that are dying at such a horrific rate. Yep. And the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, is there. Hopefully people will have access and a way to contact them to communicate with these people that can be lifelines for them, somebody who is non-judgmental, who is able to talk people out of crisis and have an understanding for what they're going through.
Yeah.
So any way that American citizens can get out the number of the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, whether you need to lend them your cell phone or get them on a landline phone to be able to call this crisis hotline, Charlton, is a great service that you'll do. And the life that you save may be somebody you know, but it will be the life of someone that you can help save.
800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can definitely get some help. Really appreciate the warmth in California. I know you said there's a lot of rain, down south. That's why it's so green, where a lot of the good old boys have those man-made lakes in California, but they're natural-made lakes down in the South Big C. Also, Big C Sports launching a real estate TV channel in spring of 2020. The goal is to help recruit 100 real estate brokers to put their property listings on television. There's so much building in California, Big C. A lot of people are just taking what used to be farmland, and now you're seeing they're laying the land lines, their labor, whatever they're laying, the sewage systems, and then you come back a month later, you see houses. Like, where did these houses come from? Last year they used to have figs, so a lot of those things are happening. We want to get real estate brokers to put properties on TV and make sure they have an easier time selling those properties. Looking forward to that coming in the spring of 2020. You know, it's good to have friends in lone places. There's a good old boy that said, I got friends in lone places or strong places. I know he had friends in places, Big C. It's nice to have a friend in the White House, especially when you're a 49er fan. And it just happened to happen when the 49ers, you know, some people said they were robbed in the Super Bowl by their own coach, Big C, not knowing how to keep running the ball. But President Trump, he pardoned ex-49er owner Eddie DeBartolo, and he really was an owner that the team that he hired loved. You know, he hired Bill Walsh, of course, had a lot of good people in that organization. And so today, Potus granted a pardon to the former San Francisco 49 owner, you know, Eddie DeBartolo Jr. The White House announced that today he was pleading guilty in 1998 to a felony charge of failing to report that a former Louisiana governor, Edwin Edwards, allegedly, Big C, extorted $400,000 for him to win a casino license. Big C, is all fair, love, and war. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, did he extort the money or did he offer it as a bribe? I mean, there's two different conflicting stories on that scenario. But as we looked at what the president did today, giving clemency or to 11 convicted felons.
11.
You know, the thing about the judicial system, I mean, when you're a criminal, you're a criminal. But, you know, the president has found a fondness for people who have committed extortion, bribery, and other misgivings, Charlton, to, you know, the civil system.
Yeah.
And it's a wrong message that he sends. If you're a criminal, you're a criminal. Think about minorities. Minorities are not getting out and committing crimes like that, Charlton, but the president sees people who have committed crimes that he's committed in the past prior to becoming president, people like himself.
Yeah.
And so giving clemency to these people and reduction of sentences, Charlton, and offering pardons, I think it sends a bad message to the layman person in America who has family members that are incarcerated and can't get the same equal justice.
Yeah, isn't it ironic how the universe will bring two things together, juxtapose what's happening with the baseball, you know, commissioner and the Houston Astros being told to the whole universe that they were cheating, and that because they were cheating, some good old boys actually lost their jobs, Big Z, and all they were doing was telling, you know, which pitch was going to come by their electronic, you know, mechanisms. And just think about this, and I'm okay for people getting out, you know, God knows there's too many people locked up, but DeBartolo pleaded guilty in 1998 to a felony charge, failing to report, you know, that the Louisiana governor, Edwin Edwards, allegedly, you know, extorted $400,000 from them.
Well, I mean, you got that in reverse. He offered a bribe of $400,000. He didn't extort him. He offered a bribe.
Well, they're saying extort in the article that I was reading out of the Washington D.C. area, Big C. It said DeBartolo paid $1 million in penalties and served 2 years probation and avoided prison time. If you got $2 million, I guess it can buy you out of a lot of things. But ironically, how sports, and for all the people that say sports and politics don't mix, shut up. I mean, just stop it already. Several NFL retired players, including Hall of Famers Jerry Rice, Charles Haley, Ronnie Lott, and Jim Brown, they told reporters that they met with Trump about DeBartolo's case. I thought these African-American men were meeting with Trump about money that he was giving to HBCUs, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's about them earning something out of the ordeal, Charlton. I mean, people are not meeting and wanting something for nothing. Everybody's trading something in this scenario. And like I said, I look at it, and I read the story different than what you read it, that he paid $4,000 to extort and get favoritism for a riverboat gaming license down in Louisiana, Charlton. That's what DeBartolo did.
Yeah.
And he pleaded guilty to it. So, I mean, if somebody's extorting money from you, you're not going to plead guilty that they're extorting money to you. If you're offering a bribe, you will plead guilty to the bribe.
Yeah.
But I look at the people that he's giving clemency to and also pardons to. All of these people were convicted under Clinton and under Obama administration, two Democratic presidents. And so what he's doing, the president is doing now, he's giving the middle finger to those two Democratic presidents on everybody that their Justice Department convicted of doing wrongdoing.
Yeah. I just think it's ironic. Where's Joe Montana? Wasn't Joe Montana the prodigal son of the San Francisco 49ers? But the men that show up to thank POTUS were black men, all Hall of Famers. To me, I think it's a message to get the black vote. I mean, the irony of it all, Big C, I just tell you, it's almost funny and laughable and somewhat painful too. You have Jerry Rice, who went to Mississippi Valley State, which is one of the lowest educational ranked states in the union, and we know that President, not just him, but they've ignored that school. I mean, not just the school, but that whole state when it comes to education. We know that. And to take people like Jim Brown, these are people that African Americans have looked up to for many, many years because of what they did on the athletic fields, and also, after sports was over. Not knocking those men. They can do what they want. They can support whomever they want. But I just think it's a little bit disingenuous when they've made Joe Montana the prodigal son of the 49ers, and you have black men sitting there clapping and praising Potus, and they'll put that together when they do the campaign speeches. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Joe Montana has no love lost. He traded Joe Montana, so Joe Montana, I can understand him not wanting to be there.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of guys that I mentioned, whether it's Ronnie Lott or Jerry Rice or Haley, they didn't end their careers with the 49ers either. But it's all fair in love and war. DeBartolo owned the 49ers from 1977 up to 2000, and then was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2016. Now, if you are the baseball commissioner, Manfred, and everybody's mad at him by saying that it's just a piece of metal, these trophies that people are trying to win with their blood, sweat, and tears. But I just want to ask you why we're spending, as a society, so much time trying to prove that these baseball cheats, the Houston Astros, there's some teams in California that will not even allow the name Astros to be on their little team, their baseball teams, little league teams. It's just crazy. And at the same time, we have the president pardoning a guy for doing much worse than spying on a fastball or a curveball. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about the NFL Hall of Fame. They inducted a felon when they inducted DeBartolo into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm not spending any time trying to prove whether Houston cheated or didn't cheat or any other organization cheated or didn't cheat. It's always been a part of the sports world. People cheat. There's been every scandal that you can think about throughout the decades of sports. Nothing new. It's just now that we've become more of an electronic savvy society is that we're seeing and hearing more about things that we did not hear about in the past. I mean, you think the steroid, era never occurred? I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers would not have had their first 4 Super Bowl rings if it was not for steroids. They cheated. They cheated throughout the entire 70s and 80s of the NFL era. So if you want to talk about eras of team cheating and players having an unfair advantage, you can look at basically every sport. So the Pittsburgh Steelers were the leaders in the NFL. Baseball has had eras. Every decade, there's always a different era in baseball about cheating. Going back into the early 1900s, it's nothing new, whether it's been steroids, whether it's been, amphetamines, whatever. Baseball has used whatever they had to use.
Saliva.
Illegal pitches, Charlton, stealing signs, something that's always gone on. So when you talk about discrepancies in sports, it's something that's always existed. Whether it's the referees fixing a game, it's always something. So, I mean, if people want to spend time trying to find the inaccuracies in any sporting event, they can do that. Or they can just sit back and enjoy the sporting event. They even have cheating in race car driving, Charles. People getting unfair advantages as far as what they're doing improperly to their cars. We've seen horses being drugged. So cheating is always will be and has been a part of sports.
It's part of life. I just feel with all the extra attention, Houston getting guys fired, DeBartolo being exonerated. So basically what happened is they're saying that we're going to erase everything you have. But if you're pardoned, that's fine. But I just want to add on to this because it's all political. And again, for people that say sports and politics don't mix, those guys just don't read. Jerry Rice, he said he takes his hat off to Donald Trump for what he did, Rice said. Now, DeBartolo did make a lot of the 49ers, made them wealthy in business on and off the field, Big C. But it's ironic that it came less than 10 minutes before he was able to leave town. He was having scheduled meetings on the West Coast for business and other political things that he's doing out here. San Francisco is a very political savvy town, and to exonerate one of their prodigal sons in DeBartolo and have some of the Black Hall of Famers, it's a way to look for the black vote before he sings out to the West Coast. But it's all fair in love and war. Me personally, I'm glad he got pardoned because there's a lot of good old boys that do a lot worse than DeBartolo did, and nothing happens to him. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, if you think what DeBartolo did down in New Orleans was the only thing he ever did, no, Charles, you need to go back and check his history in the state of Ohio of all the impropriable things that
all
he
the shopping
did
malls.
back there. I
Yeah.
mean, he was a criminal before he got the 49ers.
Yeah.
Where do you think he got his money from?
Yeah.
You got to look at the racketeering that he was involved in there also.
Yeah. Like we say, it's all fair and level war. I don't know any perfect man outside of Jesus Christ, Big C.
But we're not looking for perfect. We're talking about what somebody does that's improper. We're talking about an individual, and you just can't look at one part, because what he did down in Louisiana, Charlton, wasn't his first rodeo.
Yeah.
He had done that in Cleveland in real estate for years.
Yeah.
And in the Canton area.
Yeah.
So he just got that money and moved to the West Coast. Why do you think the NFL wouldn't allow him to buy the team in Ohio, the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah.
So he had to come out to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because they knew where his money was.
Well, they were handing out a lot of paper bags to get those Black Hall of Famers to go there and stomp for them. But sometimes you pay back the people who helped you become wealthy, too. I understand that. And really, I say there's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion, because some African Americans got some money, too. But I want to bring up this thing.
If they were to lock you up, you think Trump would pardon you?
No. Hey, hopefully I won't get locked up, but if I just say, hey, I love you. It's a good question, and I'm not getting locked up, but if it did, I'll say I love you, too, to get me out. It doesn't hurt the Black Hall of Famers to do that. You know, thinking of that, this stop and frisk society, because when I watch Jerry Rice and I watch, Jim Brown, Charles Haley, these guys are considered, I won't say paragons of virtue, they're just men. But they're there thanking the guy for letting out a white man when this same president, he wanted stop and frisk, he and Mayor Bloomberg in New York. And those stop and frisk guys, they look like Jerry Rice, they look like Ronnie Lott, they look like Charles Haley, and they say nothing about that. They could really use their political clout to stop that garbage. I know Bloomberg is just like Donald Trump, they're friends, but he's stomping trying to say he's different, and people read that, they'll understand. That's the one thing that bothers me about some of our black so-called leaders. It's okay if you want to go shake somebody's hand, nobody's perfect, but don't act like he's only one side of the moon. They should address some of the bad things too. Does that make any sense at all, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what political leader during that time did not back, stop and frisk? You got the former vice president, Biden.
Yeah.
He was one of those who passed all these laws in Congress.
That's why
so
he's
when we talk about politicians, when we talk about injustice in black society, it's something that's always existed since slavery.
Yeah.
And so to think that all of a sudden now that guys have had a change of heart, I mean, it's like when I always talk about, you don't see any black owners in the NFL. The reason why is because the white guys are not going to allow you to own a team.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference how much money you have. You can be a multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
They're not going to let you into their exclusive club. So separation in America will always exist. Stop and frisk has always been accepted by those wealthy. Everybody with a billionaire that's a billionaire in America is always backed. Stop and frisk. It's what society is. So about stumping for somebody, saying you should ask for this, they're not going to ask for it. When you look at Jerry Rice, you look at Ronnie Lott, they're millionaires. They live in different neighborhoods. They're not going to go hang out in a black community, Charlton. They're not going to stump for black society. They're going to stump for the social echelon that they're in.
Very well said, Big C. And they can stomp for whoever they want to. So congratulations. Hopefully before they leave Washington, D.C., they'll see if they'll pardon a lot of other African Americans who did far less things like parole violations, and they've been tossed in prison for fodder. It's a joke, Big C, in my opinion. They should have taken Harry Edwards back there to educate him a little bit. I want to jump into the world, since we're still talking about, passing the buck, Big C. The great Drew Brees, the New Orleans Saints, he announces his intention for the return in the 2020 season, that he's going to come back and play. He's on track for a 20th season, Big C, and a 15th with New York, actually with the New Orleans Saints. He's a 41-year-old, Caucasian male who's been the face, really, of New Orleans, not only for the Saints, but when they have Hurricane Katrina and a lot of other social issues that Drew Brees has put his face on. And I want to appreciate how good this man is, because 41 really is the new 31, and he's coming back. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, athletes' age is a lot different than what it was 40 years ago, Charlton, with the nutrition and workout regimens that they have. Drew Brees coming back to the Saints. Drew Brees is not coming back chasing records.
No.
He's coming back trying to win. That's the difference of guys hanging on now versus guys who are hanging on then. He's been productive in the latter part of his career.
Yeah.
He holds so many NFL records, Charlton. and he still has the ability to produce at a high level. When you talk about a guy being a part of a community, he's been the heartstring of that New Orleans area, Charlton, ever since, and even before Katrina.
Yeah.
This is a guy that could have left, who could have turned his back on the city, but the city adopted him, and he adopted the city. And these are not always the stories that we hear about in sports.
Yeah.
Drew Brees flies under the radar with his charitable contributions and actions in the New Orleans area. And that's not what he wants to be known for.
Yeah.
He wants to be known as just one of the locals down there in the Big Easy.
Yeah, and the Big Easy is, again, I remember when I had, some nephews of mine, they had autographed jerseys from Jerry Rice after they won his first Super Bowl with the 49ers, and it's amazing how oftentimes I see black men that we put on a pedestal, and they say nothing about easing some of the criminal injustices that have happened to black Americans. And I mean, that just has always bothered me. Drew Brees completed 74% of his passes, Big C. And think about this, man. As far as a Pro Bowl player, there's been so many great quarterbacks since he's been playing the game. He passed for 27 touchdowns by throwing for just 4 interceptions and selected to his 4th Pro Bowl last year. Had the broken thumb down in L.A. when they hit his hand on somebody's helmet. His 13th Pro Bowl. It's just amazing. These young 40-something-year-old men, whatever they're taking, I want some of that too, Big C. That make any sense?
Well, like I said, it's the workout regimen and diet situation that they go through now, Charlton. Athletes today are much better than athletes were 20 and 40 years ago. It's just like I was saying after the dunk contest. No one in the dunk contest 20 and 30 years ago could compete with the dunk contest today in the NBA. They would not even make it to the final round. People talk about how great Jordan's dunks were. Jordan's dunks wouldn't even qualify to get into the semifinals this year.
Yeah, Jordan's were a little bit media-made. We understand that, too. At least he didn't show up and thank Potus for letting the bottle out of pardoning him. We know Chicago's a windy city for politics, not because it's so cold. Also in the NFL.
They let Blagojevich out in Chicago after 8 years of bribery and trying to sell a Senate seat that Obama had left when he was elected president. Yeah. He was put in prison.
Yeah.
Trump pardoned him today.
Yeah, it's all fair and level work. Isn't it good to have, I've got friends in long places. Remember that song that good old boy singing, Big C, drinking whiskey and wine? He knew what he was talking about. Also, in the world of football, down in the desert state of Arizona, it took them twice to grant Martin Luther King a holiday in Arizona. It's just funny. They got the NFL's #1 draft pick in Kyler Murray, and it looked like they're going to put some help in keeping him safe, Big C, in the pocket. Cardinals announced Tuesday that they've re-signed DJ Humphries to a 3-year contract, and that keeps him with the team through 2022. He's a 26-year-old that started all 16 games at left tackle. That's good to keep people off of Murray's blind side, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they're going to need more than Humphries down there with Murray. They have one of the weakest offensive and defensive lines in the NFL. This is a team that's rebuilding, and they're going to have to do it in a hurry to keep him healthy.
They're going to have to. 6'5", 307 pounds. Humphries started 43 games for the Cardinals since being selected in the first round of 2015 draft out of Florida. The contract's worth about $45 million, and that's $29 million guaranteed money, so I'm sure he'll be able to buy. What do they eat down in Arizona? Do they really eat a lot of cactus? I hear cactus is a good source of protein. It doesn't have the cholesterol that meat eats, but is that what those guys are chewing on? The cactus, of course, they cook it first, Big C. Your thoughts?
Great Tex-Mex food down there in the southern border.
They really do have that. Also, we've heard the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, in the news. He's defending his own quarterback, and you should. But then when you look at what's happening with that argument back and forth, did he use the N-word? Did he not? Well, maybe someone should have gotten Trump to pardon him too for the use of the word, but they're saying he didn't say it. But the Steelers hire Ike Hilliard as a new wide receivers head coach, and that's really going to help them. Hilliard, when he was a player, he caught 546 passes during a 12-year NFL career, and he played between Tampa Bay and also the New York Giants. Spent the last 6 seasons as the wide receiver coach for the Washington Redskins. But is Big Ben going to come back? And if he does, all he really has is Juju Smith-Schuster, Big C. So they're going to have to get some other wide receivers to help if Big Ben's going to be successful. Your thoughts?
Well, Juju is not a #1 receiver. He's a #2 receiver. The problem with the Steelers is that the inconsistency at wide receiver. And so whoever's playing quarterback, they need the receivers to step up, and they need to get one in the draft that can go over the top.
Yeah, so Tomlin's going to have his work cut out for him also. And no matter what happened with the Cleveland and Pittsburgh incident, it's all love and fair. It's all fair and love and war. I do want to go down to, and we can all take a sigh of relief, because in the Daytona 500, that horrific crash, I really didn't know about it until I was listening to my radio about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I heard about the crash down in Florida. When you have cars that go at nearly 200 miles per hour, it flipped, it got T-boned by another car, and it was horrific to look at, Big C. I know a lot of the people didn't know what had happened because you can't see every spot of the track at the time you're crossing the finish line. But it's great news to see that the man, after being, of course, taken to the hospital in critical condition, he's actually able to talk today. I wish they could take the same technologies that they put into these cars and put them in regular civilian vehicles. We'd have so many fewer fatalities on the road. I know it would cost a lot, but it's not more important than a life. Just your thoughts on seeing something that horrific. I know racing is kind of like, I guess it's really important to the southern population more so than out west. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that technology is in civilian cars, but the average civilian, Charlton, cannot afford to pay more than $250,000 for a car, and that's the reason why you have so many horrific incidents on those everyday streets. But you got to take your hat off to NASCAR, and thankfully that Denny Hamlin survived that horrific event, because 19 years ago, that's when Dale Earnhardt lost his life at that same racetrack, Charlton, in that same turn. So when you think about what NASCAR has done for the safety of its drivers and the technology that they have put forth on the track for these cars that are consistently going over 200 miles an hour on this 2.5-mile oval circuit, Charlton, and also you got to think about the first responders and the safety crews there at Daytona, as far as their response time and getting to the driver after the crash, Charlton, in that fiery event and helping save his life. Yeah.
Now, I've heard, I'm not a big race car guy, but I have heard some, and I saw some of the Daytona 500. I saw the Sunday part before it was rain delayed, but they were saying that there's something about the fender that the design allows you to, when you're trying to maybe bump another car, that fender can get stuck behind the rear end fender, and the front end fender from the car behind it, they get connected. You would think with all the technology that they would only be smooth edges, kind of like when you have those bumper cars not at a museum, but at a fair or a circus, Big C, those bumper cars that a lot of people get on. Everything is kind of round. In fact, the whole car surrounded by maybe an inner tube, if that makes any sense. You would think with that much money and that much technology, there'd be no way to clip the fender of somebody or have a good hook, Big C. That make any sense?
Well, what happens in those cars, Charlton, when you're moving at excess of 200 miles an hour is called aerodynamics.
Yeah.
And you get the lift. It's not about the bumpers getting connected. It's about the lift that the car creates when it's next to another one. And if you ever see the bottom of those cars, there's smooth surfaces underneath to create airflow.
Yeah.
And if that airflow is ruptured and the car behind is too close, that air starts to push up, so the rear end of that car leaves the surface.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it was horrific to see, but even impressive when you can see that type of a calamity on the track and people walk away from it, even though he had to get, medically taken from the vehicle. You really see if anyone being injured the way they did 20 years ago. So again, thoughts and prayers are great, but it's good to see the emergency response crew and how NASCAR has really put their money where their mouth is, and people being safer as they drive those cars at that rate of speed. We're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Potus pardon, Big C. We'll take the Big C timeout. We'll come back and talk more about some of the great events in the last 10 years of sports. We hope that you'll come back and join us in just a second. All right, we're back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker.com. The apps that I really love are by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play the Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he will do his thing, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Fire TV, Apple TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Also, launching spring of 2020, the real estate show. We're getting 100 brokers throughout the country and different markets to list their real estate properties on television. It'll make you an all-star if you're an agent and the homeowner can see that you put their property on TV, unlike some of the other media ways that people do their listings. Really appreciate that as I learn more and more about how that's coming to fruition. Big C, I know we talked about the pardon. We talked about, obviously, Drew Brees announcing that he's coming back. Of course, Jerry Rice, Jim Brown, Ronnie Lott, and Charles Haley, they're stomping for Trump, and they're glad that Potus pardoned Eddie DeBartolo, who was doing a lot of shenanigans, Big C. I thought they were trying to shore up some money for the HBUs, but Potus is coming out to the West Coast, and he used them as a launching pad to do that. 10 years ago, actually 10 years, in the sports world, it seems like an eternity, especially when you're DeBartolo, you get pardoned, Big C. But these are the most dominant 10 male athletes of the past decade. I want to throw out some names and some things about them, and you can do your thing as you normally do. I would say number one, LeBron James, winning 3 NBA titles, being voted MVP twice, and winning a gold medal in 2012. Plus, nobody has scored more points than the start of the 2009-2010 season than the great LeBron James. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you look at LeBron James, he's been the face of the NBA for the past decade, Charlton, and he has dominated. When he came into the league as the chosen one right out of high school, he set the league on fire. He took a team that was a nowhere team in Cleveland to an NBA championship round, Charlton, even though they lost to San Antonio. But he left that organization, went to Miami, made multiple trips to the final, winning 2 championships, and came back to Cleveland and finished the mission that he said he came there for, to deliver a championship. And every time you turn on the NBA, his name is synonymous with the game today. Yeah,
it really is synonymous. And even seeing King, Team LeBron James and Team Giannis Antetokounmpo in the NBA All-Star Game exhibition, thought it was really great. And I just love what LeBron James is also doing, off the court as well. Tom Brady, number 2, Big C. Brady's career has spanned 2 decades, and he's still going strong. He's 42. He's only 42, which is the new 32. He won 2 MVP awards, 2010 and 2017. He also led them good old boys, the New England Patriots, to 5 Super Bowl appearances and 3 Super Bowl titles, 2014, 2016, and 2018. And we know he also got something done earlier in his career too. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think of what a 6th-round draft pick in the NFL could do, and that's Tom Brady. He's the poster boy for everybody who couldn't get it done, Charlton. No one had any big favors for him coming out of college. That, he was hoping to make a roster, and all he's done is made NFL history. He's been the most successful quarterback in NFL history with 9 trips to the Super Bowl, winning it a total of 6 times, Charlton.
Yep.
And he's number 2 behind Drew Brees in all the critical statistics in NFL history.
Isn't it amazing, with all the 6 Super Bowls, their best team, in my opinion, they actually lost in the Super Bowl. They were going to go undefeated, throughout their entire thing. They would have finished 19-0. Their best team actually did not win a championship. That's just amazing. Number 3 on the list, Usain lightning fast Bolt, already an international star, an Olympic champion when the decade started. But he added to his legacy, Big C. He became the only sprinter to win gold medals in both the 100 and 200 meters in 3 consecutive Olympics, 2008, 2012, and 2016. He also won 11 gold medals at track and field world championships from 2009 to 2015. And one of the major things I loved about him, he rarely got off the line fast. He always closed fast. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Usain Bolt has the greatest intro when he's introduced by his friends than any person in the world. And when they I'd like to introduce you to my friend Usain, the fastest man in the world. You think about that. It used to be the world heavyweight champion in boxing. But always since Bob Hayes won the Tokyo Olympics back in 1964 rather, and, here it is being introduced as the world's fastest man is the greatest handle that anybody could ever have, because no one can beat you in a race. And here's Usain Bolt, the most decorated sprinter in track and field history in the 100 and 200 meters.
Yeah, it really is. And just talking about the 10 years in the sports world, it seems like an eternity, but there are some dominant, male athletes in the past decade. Big C. Number 4 on the list, just my opinion, Mike Trout. Trout has made his major league debut in 2011. He was 19 years old. A season later, he won the American League Rookie of the Year and finished second in the American League MVP voting. He has not slowed down. Since an 8-time All-Star, think about this, Trout gone on to win 3 MVP awards, and he finished in second. There was 4 times that he finished in second after winning 3 times. Big C, your thoughts?
And, as far as the greatest individual in Major League Baseball today, that is Mike Trout. We know that baseball has been considered for a long time a team sport, and we hear a lot about that with the Astros and what happened with them and the improprieties that they did as far as allegedly stealing signs and stuff like that. But when you look at Mike Trout and what he has done since he's been on the mound, on the diamond, in his major league career, it's been unparalleled with the level of success he's had as an individual. Winning batting titles, winning home run titles, winning MVP, and as you said, being runner-up 4 times in less than a decade, Charlton. That's total dominance from one individual.
Yeah, it really is. And even when he was saying that the commissioner maybe, Manfred's a little bit out of touch, maybe he is out of touch because a lot of these guys, if you're lucky enough to play the game at a high level, you're not just playing for a piece of metal. You're playing for something that will matter, in the length of time that people think about what athletes do.
But everybody who keeps criticizing Rod Manfred, they keep forgetting who Rod Manfred worked for. He does not work for the players. The players have a union that represents them. And so even if he had suspended any of the Houston Astro players, their union would have appealed that. Those players would have been reinstated until that appeal went through. Rob Manfred works for the managers, just for the owners, just like Roger Goodell works for the owners of the NFL. He doesn't work for the players. Rob Manfred does not work for the players in Major League Baseball. And the media does not tell the whole story because they keep criticizing him. If you criticize him, you have to criticize the owners because that's who he answers to, not to the media and not to the players.
Yeah, they just need a good old friend. He needs a friend. He needs a good friend in long places.
Are
they really friends, Big C? They all compete to cheat against each other. But I would say number 5 on that list of some of the top, sports athletes, male athletes, the last 10 years. Number 5 on the list, Steph Curry, drafted 7th in 2009. Curry quickly established himself as one of the game's best shooters. In fact, some people say the best shooter in the universe. He led the NBA in 3-point field goals 5 consecutive seasons, including a record 402 3-points. And it's amazing. 402 in 2015 to 2016, an all-star in each of the past 6 seasons. Curry was also named league MVP in 2015 to 16. The Warriors set a single-season win record of 73-9 and won 3 NBA titles during that decade. And I believe he's the only unanimous MVP in the history of the league. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, here's a diminutive guard, Charlton, that not many people thought would be a dominant player in the NBA when he came out of Davidson University. But he grew up in the shadows of the NBA with his dad, Dale, who played 17 years in the league. So he learned to play the game properly, Charlton, and have a respect for the NBA. And he's been a poster child for the NBA ever since he's been in there. He led one of the greatest shows in basketball for 5 years in Golden State. On that run that they had, they were must-see television. And that's one of the reasons why the ratings are down, is that Golden States are irrelevant. Steph Curry looks to be back next year with a team that will compete in the West.
Yeah, they will compete. I still say ratings are only down because they keep these Nielsen box. I've only seen one in my whole life, Big C. I've never had one. People are cutting the cable and they're going to OTT devices. I'm sure technology will catch up soon. Number 6 on that list, Lionel Messi, the decade's greatest soccer rivalry. Messi became, I guess you would think, he's outslided ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo and a prolific goal scorer. Messi, he became a record 6-time Ballon d'Or awards, 5th this decade, actually 5 this decade, in the world's top soccer player. I think about Pele when you think about the person that signifies what soccer is all over the world, but he's not much far behind for this generation. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Messi is a god when it comes to soccer, Charlton. He is known around the world and renowned as a player, as the greatest player most likely to have ever lived. When you think about the accolades that he's achieved in playing that foot sport around the world, Charlton, around the world is known as football, but everybody else recognizes as soccer. This is the most recognizable person in the game, and he is an ambassador worldwide for that sport.
Yeah, he really has. He knows how to kick that ball, Big C. When you think about number 7 on the list, and again, everyone has their own opinion, Michael Phelps, the great Michael Phelps, although many of his accomplishments came in 2000, Phelps arguably did enough alone in the decade to be considered the greatest swimmer in the history of the universe, Big C. His unprecedented 8 gold medals, winning performance at the 2008 Olympics, winning 4 golds and 2 silvers in 2012 in London. In 2016, the Rio Games, he added another 5 golds and 1 silver. And like they say, in a puff of smoke, he won again. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Michael Phelps is the greatest aquatic to ever hit the water, Charlton. I mean, when you think about the history of what he has done in the pool, it is undoubtedly the greatest we've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
And to go out and win after retiring and coming back in Rio and dominating that Olympics once again, Charlton, and to have a total of 31 medals that he has won in the pool, pushed him into the stratosphere as far as swimming goes.
Yeah, the man really knew how to swim, and it just like in a puff of smoke. He set another record, if you understand my drift. Number 8, Novak Djokovic, the men's tennis. And it has been ruled by 3 players this decade, really, when you think of that Djokovic holds the upper hand of his 16 Grand Slam tournament titles. 15 has come since 2011, including all 5 Wimbledon crowds and 6 of the 7 Australian Open. I mean, the guy has been amazing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Novak Djokovic is just an outstanding tennis player. Just when you think that he might be fading, Charlton, this man comes back up and dominates the world tennis circuit. He has been a phenom when you think about, dominating the Australian Open, which we just saw him win once again. But, in Wimbledon, on all the greatest Grand Slam courts, Charlton, he's had 3 rivals in the sport, Federer and Nadal, but he has been the king of the tennis circuit in the past decade.
He really has. I just love when you can see people dominate. It's nice to win something one time, but when you get more than one title or one trophy, you got to think about that. This man had enough to put on one finger and still had more to go, Big C. Number 9 on the list, Kevin Durant. Starting the 2009-2010 season, Durant led the league in points 5 years in a row. With the Thunder, he went to the 2012 finals, was the league MVP in 2013 and 14, won Olympic gold medal in 2012 and 2016. Durant became an NBA champion when he joined the Golden State Warriors in 2016, won back-to-back titles, winning finals most valuable player in the universe. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, known as the Slim Reaper, Kevin Durant has been blessed to be around a lot of great players in his career. In Oklahoma City, he had teammates of Russell Westbrook and James Harden and Serge Ibaka on that team, Charlton, before joining the Golden State Warriors and being part of the greatest show on the court in the decade. And the Golden State Warriors went on to win back-to-back titles with Kevin Durant in the lineup and made it to a 3rd finals appearance prior to losing to the Toronto Raptors with one of the purest scorers in the NBA.
Yeah, really just had such a, wasn't very thick. Looks like he didn't lift a lot of weights, but he just had that touch. I remember seeing him when he played for the University of Texas and how just amazing he was. A solid shooter, but became a really great defender later in his career. Really appreciate seeing that man play again. Hopefully he'll be back on the court next year. Number 9, Rafa Nadal, king of the clay, won the French Open 8 times during the decade. 3 of his 4 Grand Slam tournaments in 2010. He's the reigning champion at the French and U.S. Open. Nadal was ranked number 1 for 140 weeks, Big C, including now, and number 2 for 133 weeks. He don't even know what the number 3 means, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's having a presence every time you show up and being a competitor. We talked about Djokovic and Nadal being his key rival, Charlton, on the men's tennis circuit. Nadal is the king of the hard court, and especially the clay surface. It's hard for him to lose at Roland Garros. They might want to name that after him, become a Spanish instead of a French circuit, Charlton. But Rafa Nadal is probably the greatest left-handed tennis player that we've ever seen in modern times.
Yeah, I just remember as growing up, I still miss the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. That man has not seen too many agonies of defeat when he's been on the play, Big C. Number 10, Cristiano Ronaldo. He signed with Real Madrid before the turn of the decade and dominated, scoring 40 or more goals 3 times, Big C, and winning back-to-back Ballon d'Or awards in 2013 and 2014, as well as 2016 and 2017. He was named the top forward in Portugal, won the UEFA Euro 2016. He transferred to Juventus in 2018 and led the team to a first-place finish in his first year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we've come to an era of sports, Charlton, where players are recognized by one name. You talked about Messi. Now you talk about Ronaldo in the world of soccer, Charlton. And in Europe, soccer is so big. It is a lifeblood. And as you think about Ronaldo and his dominance on that European circus, Charlton, to go to multiple teams and make champions out of them, that's what championship pedigree is, and other players live up to your standard.
Yeah, it really does, Big C. I want to jump to the world of the NCAA college basketball. The Magic 8 is one of these teams will win the NCAA tournament in 2020. Man, we're right there up on March Madness, Big C. Even in a wide-open year, only so many squads have a real shot at winning the whole thing, Big C. I want to, again, how do people find Kansas? You got to follow the Yellow Brick Road. Kansas out of the Big 12. Baylor out of the Big 12. Gonzaga out of the West Coast Conference. Duke out of the ACC. San Diego State out of the Mountain West. Maryland out of the Big 10. Seton Hall, the Big East. And Louisville out of the ACC. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at there, you're looking at some of the pedigree of college basketball in those teams that you named. You look at Baylor and you look at Kansas. They're going to have a number 1 and number 3 matchup this weekend on Saturday, so that's going to, most likely decide a number 1 seeding in the Big 12 title. You look at Duke and you look at Louisville coming out of the ACC, 2 teams that are not strangers to the NCAA tournament, and both of them have won national championships in the history of those programs. The new kid on the block, when you look at San Diego State, it's them. Gonzaga has been around for many years. Mark Few. Is it time for him finally to break through and win a national title out there in Spokane?
Probably not, Big Z. That small media market, they're good, but they don't play that rigorous conference every weekend where they would have if they were in the Big 10 or the ACC. Just my opinion. College athletics, the ACC wants to give student athletes more freedom to transfer, and that's a good thing. On Monday, the conference released a statement saying it supports adding a one-time transfer rule for all student athletes, Big C, at the league's winter meeting last week. The ACC, it also discussed the transfer environment and unanimously concluded, that means everybody concluded, that as a matter of principle, we support a one-time transfer opportunity for all student athletes, regardless of the sport, the conference said. I would say that's not good enough. Make it, if they want to leave, let them leave, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is something that's long overdue. When you think about the transfer portal in college sports, it's always been there for non-revenue sports, because women's basketball, men's basketball, football, and baseball, you cannot transfer and play immediately in any conference in America. You had to sit out for a year up until this, unless you were a grad transfer, Charlton, that we've seen a lot in this transfer portal in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So the ACC adopting this, that you can be a freshman or a sophomore and transfer and get immediate eligibility so that you're allowed to go to another program and play for more than just one season, I think it bodes well for the student athlete. And all colleges should adopt that nationwide. I know they're trying to get Congress to move in on this, and I think the major reason why universities are looking to adopt this rule is to try to curb what they're going to be able to pay players for their likeness and the opportunity to earn money.
Yeah.
They figure if they get players to move on and go to another university, then they haven't developed that marketing of themselves yet, and so they can limit the amount of money that they earn. But with players having the freedom to move, now they're going to be in the same neighborhood that these coaches are in, because no coach is forced to sit out a year when they all of a sudden they just want to up and leave, 2 weeks before the season starts, a month after the season is over.
Yep.
They can just go and leave for a better opportunity someplace else, whether it's more money or just a better social structure for themselves and their families. They're not punished, but the players have always been punished.
I agree. It's like speed dating for coaches. They can date 10 different schools in 1 year. and the athletes are kind of treated like a marriage. It's hard to get out of that relationship. And again, as we talk about, overall, everybody has an opinion. NCAA undergraduate students are not always granted immediate eligibility when they transfer to a new school. 20 sports allow one-time transfer, but football, men's and women's basketball, ice hockey, and baseball do not. I know it's just a matter of getting better. Just like NASCAR, they've made their cars better. They're not perfect, but they're better than they were 20 years ago because they looked at it. In this transfer portal, Big C, it's not perfect, but it has room to improve. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the transfer portal has always been there. This is nothing new. This has gone on since the 60s and 70s, that players were allowed to transfer. But if you wanted to transfer and play immediately in those major revenue sports, you had to go down to a lower division of that college sport and play. You could not transfer in Division I. And now that they're looking at that and making that a law, and like I said, the reason that they're going to do that is that they're looking to find a way to limit the amount of revenue that players are earning. So they figure if they give something in one area, they won't have to give as much in another.
Yeah, it's always the people in power have always made the rule. It was like that way with the British Empire, Big C. Also in Potus Tower, you can pardon all your good friends, especially when you want to go to the area they came from with their sports teams to try to get people to vote for you. WNBA, two-time WNBA MVP Elena Della Donna signed a 4-year contract Tuesday to stay with the Washington Mystics after leading the team to its first league championship. In addition to winning a title and MVP honors, Della Donna was a member of the All-WNBA first team, and for the second year in a row, made her 6th consecutive All-Star appearance. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, she's been one of the most dominant ladies in the WNBA, Charlton, and being able to lead the Mystics to a WNBA title last year after coming back off of a knee injury, just was a great boast for her. And the WNBA needs to find a way to keep their stars intact here in America and stop them from going over to Europe and playing and keeping the league strong.
Yeah, it's going to keep the league strong, and they just need some ice, Big C. You know, sometimes when you want to cool off, you need to put things on ice. Speaking of putting things on ice, take your blades and your puck and put it on ice in HL. As Alexander Ovechkin chases 700, both he and the Washington Capitals, they're struggling to score. They're struggling right as he needs 2 goals, Big C. That's all he needs. It separates the great Alex Ovechkin from becoming the 8th player in NHL history to score 700 goals. 700 is a lot of scores put in the net, Big C. But as luck would have it, Ovechkin finds himself in the longest goal drought of the season, and Washington having his own problems finding the twine, Big C. It's been 4 games since Ovechkin has scored a goal. He's at 698. I'm saying he's going to find at least one way to get that done in Black History Month, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, everybody thought there was a foregone conclusion over a week ago when he got to 698. He scored 2 goals on that night to get to 698, and now it's been a 4-game slump for him as well as the Washington Capitals, Charlton, trying to get him to that. And I think that the team and he is trying too hard instead of just relaxing and playing the game. You know, him getting to 698 was easy, but now that he needs to get 2 more to get to 700, it's been a struggle. When you try to get to record levels, it presses in your mind and everybody else. And they're working too hard trying to get him there. They just have to let the game flow, and the goals will come.
They need some ice. They got to put it on ice like a lot of good old boys. They put their Jerry Jones likes his drinks on ice, from what I understand. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on an app that I love called Speaker.com. And the apps that I really love are by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. We've talked about so many things. And time flies when you're having fun. I do want to just pay a little bit of homage to Mayor Bloomberg and even Potus. When you talk about billionaires who took their wealth and now they delve into sports business, for people who say that sports and politics don't mix, I know Potus has owned a couple of professional franchises. But I also want to consider women, Big C, when you think about what rich people do with their money. Jeannie Buss owns the Los Angeles Lakers. net worth about $500 million. So some of the athletes that actually have played for her have more money than her. But when you see this is a family business, and she's now, the monarch of that business, Big C, still loves seeing how the L.A. Lakers are on top, and they've been that way for many, many moons, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, those who earn the money versus been giving a franchise is a little different. Jenny Buss, all she had to do was sit in the seat. She didn't have to go out and earn any of that money versus what her dad did in forming that organization.
Yeah, and then sometimes you want to laugh. It's good to have a laugh, like seeing black men show up and thank Trump, who was stopping frisk for guys that look just like them. I wonder if they know that. Jerry Rice won it a lot, Charles Haley, and it's just amazing. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, but, do what you want to do. David Letterman, he makes you laugh, Big C, net worth about $400 million, and he's also a part of the IndyCar racing team. We talked about how NASCAR's done such a great job in making their cars safer for people. David Letterman, I remember seeing him when I was a young boy, considered the king of late night. He was once everybody's favorite talk show host, at least most people's talk show host. After he retired, he also started interviewing celebrities and also successful Netflix series, and now he's the owner of a worldwide pants company. He's done a lot more than just making people laugh, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you also got to look at Brad Daugherty. You talk about NASCAR. Brad Daugherty was former basketball player at North Carolina and with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was the #1 draft pick in the NBA some decades ago, Charlton, and he's been a part of a team ownership in NASCAR for the past 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, that it's always nice when you have that opportunity to make your money and make your money work for you. Also, Stan Kroenke, net worth $8.8 billion, owns the L.A. Rams of the NFL, the Colorado Rapids of the MLS, and then Arsenal FC Premier League, Big C. It's no surprise they started out with real estate, shopping centers, just like the DeBartolos, Big C. This man is 71 years old, but I guess when you have $8.8 billion, 71 is the new 21, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's the only way that you're going to own a professional franchise, Charlton, is that you are a billionaire.
Yeah, being married to Anna Walton wasn't a bad start, Big C, if that makes any sense to you. You got to marry into it sometimes, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you got to make your billions however you can.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's all fair and love and war. Most people think about professional players, and someone mentioned it's a rich world of sports. It's true. People such as Cristiano Ronaldo, Serena Williams, African-American money, they make a lot of money because they're talented at their sports. And after all, they work hard to get there. And I wish people nothing but the best. I just hope that in this climate where everybody wants to take away trophies and they want to say, I'm sorry that we cheated to win. And we know that from my friends in Texas, they say if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I know that everybody has a thought about, do you strip someone from the trophy? Reggie Bush foolishly gave back his Heisman Trophy at USC. When a lot of people do a lot of shenanigans, Big C, I don't think the Houston Astros should give back nothing. If they want to take it, let them come down and take it, Big C. Does that make any sense?
Well, like I said, the commissioners, everybody wants to throw him under the bus, works for 30 billionaires who gives him a speaking point of what to talk about.
Yeah, it's true. It's all, like we say, it's all fair and love and war. The great Drew Carey, net worth $165 million, owns the Seattle Sounders. Most people know Carey as a comedian and TV personality, but he also owns a sports team. What is it about sports teams that makes people spend their money? I've often been told growing up that when you own a professional sports team, it's a money pit, but that's before they got the huge mega TV deals, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they're no longer a money pit when you have a sport that's prominent and you have television revenue. It was a money pit prior to television. Now that television is in, this is the reason why they're not sold.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice to be born into the right bloodline. Big C. Harold Steinbrenner, net worth $3.2 billion, owns the New York Yankees. I think your favorite team in 2008. He became the co-chairman and general partner of the New York Yankees in 2010, and he and his brother Hank, and I think it's called inherited the team. So would they be like the bus, Big C? It don't matter how you get it as long as you get it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about a third of the teams around, you just saw the Kansas City Chiefs win the NFL Super Bowl. Charlton Clark Hunt inherited the team from his dad, even though his mother's the primary owner of the team. He's the CEO of the company, Charlton, and we've seen this throughout the sport leagues over the years, the children inherit the teams. I mean, we see the Chicago Bears with the McCaskey family owning the team, the daughter of George Halas, and even in San Francisco with Jay York, being the CEO of the 49ers, he's a nephew of DeBartolo.
Yeah, it's amazing how money stays in the same line. So hopefully Jim Brown, Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, and Charles Haley, and whoever else was back there talking to Potus, hopefully they'll ask for reparations for people who look like them. I just think that's all fair and loving war. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm looking back at this date in black history. In 1867, 2 years after the Civil War ended, Baptist minister Reverend Williams Jefferson White founded the Augusta Technical Institute in the basement of a Springfield Baptist Church in Augusta, Georgia. That college today, Charlton, is known as Morehouse College in Atlanta, and it was founded February 18th, 1867.
And that is worth repeating, Big C. You can always find out information about black history and more every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.